Caitlin Clark's the new it. If you don't have a long ball, talking about the 26, 30 feet, if you ain't doing the Steph Curry, if you ain't got none of that long ball in your game, yeah, you're going to be behind.
She's doing stuff we've never seen before. Never seen nobody do that on a consistent basis. There's a lot of girls in WNBA that have done it in spurts, but you know, that game I'm watching y'all in the Final Four, I'm like, damn, like, and I was a hater because, you know, I'm down. She was like, she's not going to hit that shot, and bam, like, damn.
Anyone who watches basketball knows Caitlin Clark is changing the way people see women's basketball. Even NBA legends who truly understand the game are amazed by how good she is. Because of Caitlin's talent and popularity, there's more excitement around the WNBA than ever before. But it gets even more interesting. Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time, has finally shared his thoughts. What he said about Caitlin is a big deal. His praise really shows how much he respects her. NBA legend Rick Barry also spoke up to defend Caitlin. He didn't hold back. He said the hate Caitlin gets from some WNBA players comes from jealousy and fear of her talent. His strong words shut down the critics and show exactly why Caitlin deserves all the respect she's getting.
I think it's reprehensible what they're allowing some of these players to. Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time for doing that.
WNBA great George Gervin also spoke up to support Caitlin Clark, and what he said really stood out. He wasn't afraid to call out the disrespect she's been getting. Gervin made it clear that Caitlin's talent should be celebrated, not criticized. His words sent a strong message to anyone who doubts her. Caitlin is here to stay, and even legends see how great she is.
They don't know the value that she's bringing for all of them. She bringing, they flying private planes now. They weren't flying private before she came. They on major networks now. They weren't doing that. See, she remind me of Tiger Woods for golf.
Yeah.
Guys who aren't always in the spotlight are usually the ones who speak the most honestly. That's why we're starting with former NBA player Jeff Teague. He had a solid 12-year career, was an all-star once, and even won a championship, but he was never a big media star. Now that he's retired, Teague didn't hold back. He called out the WNBA for how it's treated Caitlin Clark, especially with all the fans she brought into the league.
Like, they played this all wrong, bro.
Terribly, bro.
They was supposed to gas this shit. This is why people don't watch the shit when y'all leave college. Women's sports, because y'all hating on the best thing that's going to happen to the W.
While Teague's delivery might be blunt, his point makes sense. After years of talking about the gender pay gap in sports and trying to boost the WNBA's visibility, Caitlin Clark's arrival has finally helped push things forward. But she still didn't have an easy start. Teague points out that this negative attitude is hurting the league financially, and he believes Caitlin deserves better treatment from both her teammates and managers. Speaking of poor treatment, Celtics legend Paul Pierce deserves some blame for the media's harsh treatment of Caitlin earlier in the season. The 10-time All-Star openly doubted Caitlin and even sparked a racial controversy with his comments about her. Since then, Pierce has tried to distance himself from the drama and has started showing some respect for Caitlin. Here's what he said after Caitlin was left off the U.S. Olympic team.
You claim you want the women's game to grow, and then you keep the most popular girl in women's basketball off the team. How do you grow internationally and domestically if you don't put her on the U.S. team? It just makes the most sense. Sometimes you have to say, hey, you guys, this is bigger than the game, which it is. I mean, women's basketball is at an all-time high because of Caitlin Clark.
On the surface, his take sounds respectful, but if you dissect the logic behind it, you will see that Pierce is still not totally sold on Caitlin Clark's basketball ability. He believes that Clark should have been a part of the U.S. roster in order to grow the popularity of the sport, but implies that Caitlin didn't earn an invitation on merit alone. Then again, Paul Pierce is one of the most provocative NBA players turned sports commentators, so all of his takes must be taken with some reservation, as he might simply be trying to stay relevant in the media space. Just when you thought the drama around Caitlin couldn't get any bigger, Shaquille O'Neal dropped a bombshell on Angel Reese's podcast. Shaq held nothing back as he praised Caitlin Clark right in front of her most vocal critic. It was a jaw-dropping moment. An NBA legend defending Caitlin in the least expected place. His words made one thing clear: Caitlin is extraordinary, and even her harshest critics couldn't deny to get ready to hear it straight from the Big Diesel himself. Absence from the biggest sports event of the year may have hurt Caitlin on a personal level, but it could have been a blessing in disguise. That's at least what legendary NBA center and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year Dwight Howard thinks. He deliberated back at the time that Caitlin could use the time off to work on her skills and dominate in the second half of the season, which is exactly what happened. The quote from Howard sounds almost prescient when we look back at it. Caitlin Clark looked much different since the Olympic break, and while we don't know how much the omission from the team sparked her fury and motivated her, she definitely found her groove traveling to Paris, and potentially sitting on the bench for a stacked team could have thrown Clark off her rhythm, not to mention the possibility of a random injury that could linger upon her return. White saw an opportunity for Caitlin, where everyone else saw only failure and lack of respect, and he was smart enough to realize that a player of Clark's caliber is perfectly positioned to capitalize on that opportunity and prove she is better than most of the players selected ahead of her. Still, with Caitlin Clark, you always have to take the big picture into account. Hall of Fame point guard Isiah Thomas was always able to see all the angles on and off the court after his stellar playing career that culminated in back-to-back NBA championships for the Detroit Pistons. Thomas went on to work as head coach and executive in the NBA for many years. When asked about Clark, Thomas had a predominantly positive view with one little twist in the end. That's a very smooth job from Thomas, who managed to compliment everyone and still point out the dirty business behind all the Caitlin hate. All in one sentence, it's no secret that people tune in to follow drama, and by attacking Caitlin Clark from all directions when she first arrived at the league, the media had a lot to gain. Let's just say that Isiah is onto something here, but he doesn't want to feed into the very controversy. He is describing Caitlin Clark as quickly gained grassroots support from Indian and college fans, but she still can't compare with some of the basketball heroes from the past when it comes to local love. On the very top of the list of most beloved Indiana ballers of all time is the elite three-point marksman and cutthroat competitor Reggie Miller, who spent all of his 18 seasons wearing a #31 Pacers jersey. While you might expect Miller to show some respect to Clark as the new savior of his town, he went the opposite way and basically said that every rookie must learn how to deal with adversity and competition. Reggie Miller played in the old-school NBA where physicality was the norm, and his perspective on hard fouls might not fully apply to today's game. But let's be clear, Caitlin Clark is facing challenges beyond just competitiveness. She's enduring unnecessary hostility. It was never realistic to expect WNBA players to simply welcome Caitlin without a fight. With the level of resistance she has encountered goes beyond earning her place. It feels like an attempt to push her down. Caitlin's journey is about more than just earning respect. It's about demanding fair treatment, even if it means standing tall against the odds. Magic Johnson is actively involved in women's basketball as a part owner of the Los Angeles Sparks. Because of that, we know that the superstar point guard and driver of 5 NBA championship teams is paying attention to what's going on in the WNBA. Johnson offered a very insightful analysis of Caitlin's role in the league, while also mentioning other high-profile rookies. Interestingly, Magic drew a parallel between the current prop of young WNBA talent and his own rivalry with Larry Bird that revitalized the NBA in the late 70s and early 80s. He is preaching patience and pointing out that the young stars will need support from their teammates in order to conquer all the challenges and earn top spots in their sport. In his typical style, Magic gave his praise to everyone without truly getting caught up in the ugly part of the debate. Still, his assessment of Clark is very high and can be taken as a sign that even old NBA players who have a vested interest in a competing team must respect her greatness. Anyone who remembers Magic from his playing days knows he was always classy and elegant in his public statements. That can't be said for one of his contemporaries. Charles Barkley was a physical player whose interactions with the media often sounded similar to his battles for position deep in the paint, now working in the media and enjoying even greater popularity. But as a player, the 11-time All-Star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist has commented on Caitlin Clark and her WNBA experience several times. He has been mostly supportive, like in this clip, where he discusses how her form changed during the season.